A newly surfaced top-secret Pentagon document has set off alarm bells in Washington. The assessment, called the Overmatch Brief, lays out a scenario the U.S. has avoided confronting publicly. If a war breaks out over Taiwan, China could cripple America's most prized military assets. China could put U.S. fighter jets, aircraft carriers, and even the satellites that make modern warfare possible at serious risk. The report was prepared by the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment, the small but influential unit responsible for evaluating long-term global threats. The report comes just days after China warned that it would crush all foreign attempts to interfere in the Taiwan matter, as Japan raised the possibility of placing missiles on an island close to Taiwan. The conclusion of the report is blunt. While the U.S. relies on monumental, expensive, highly sophisticated weapons, China has spent years building cheaper, faster to replace, and deeply redundant systems. The imbalance is so stark that when a senior U.S. national security official first saw the document in 2021, he reportedly turned pale, realizing that China had multiple counters to nearly every American advantage. The brief highlights a structural problem at the heart of the U.S. military: vulnerability. Aircraft carriers like the $13 billion Ford class, once symbols of unstoppable power, repeatedly get destroyed in war games simulating a Taiwan conflict. And yet, the Navy is planning to build at least 9 more of them. Meanwhile, China has focused on missiles and weapons designed specifically to neutralize these giants at a fraction of the cost. It's not just the hardware. The report says America's ability to sustain a war against a major power has eroded. Supply chain weak points make it harder to keep troops equipped. Rivals, especially China, have built large stockpiles of rare earth materials, electronics, and components required to keep a modern military active for months. The US has not. Then there is the digital battlefield. A China-linked hacking group known as Volt Typhoon has managed to infiltrate systems that control power grids, communications networks, and even water services for American military bases. In a real conflict, China could potentially delay US troop movements, disrupt logistics, or even trigger outages that affect civilians far from the battlefield. All of this comes against an increasingly tense backdrop. Beijing has spent years modernizing its forces with one goal in mind: to deter, contain, or defeat any attempt to stop it from taking Taiwan. Taiwan sits on a geopolitical fault line. It's a thriving democracy, a key U.S. partner, and the heart of the global semiconductor industry. Losing it to Beijing, or even entering a conflict over it, would reshape global security, trade, and technology. Which is why the Overmatch Brief hits so hard. It exposes a gap between America's image of its military dominance and the reality of how much the battlefield has shifted. The message from the Pentagon's own analysts is unmistakable: in a Taiwan conflict, the U.S. can no longer assume it holds the upper hand. And China wants the world, and Washington, to understand that the balance has changed.